Yeah, yeah. Making her way to the mic. They start dimming the lights. You start feeling alright. From Birmingham, home of the Teddy Longs, and the room is stutters. More once you discover. For all of the lovers, Whitney Houston and Roman Reigns. For all of the lovers, and Mickey James and Marvin Gaye. For all of the lovers, and Sasha Banks, Janelle Monáe, Silk, Sonic, and Paige. Allow me to say, look, I just found a place, sweet escape for every one of us. I was kinda late, cause I just made it off the struggle bus. Walking by the fate, cause I know it's right in front of us. Yo, I ain't with the hate, gotta focus on what's great. Ladies and gentlemen, Steph Hardy is on the air. Had to drop a couple bars just to make you all aware. So, sit back, relax, enjoy the show. You know I go by Joe or the rest of the flow, yeah.
Hey y'all, sorry for the technical difficulties, but welcome to this episode of HWP Xtra with your girl Stephanie Hardy. Of course, if this is your first time watching or listening, thank you for joining me and on this wrestling ride. And of course, if this is or you know is or isn't your first time listening, just thank you for joining this journey with me as I talk about the ins and outs of professional wrestling. Welcome to the universe of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast. So, I bet some of you guys are wondering, why is Stephanie on a Wednesday? Why is she on a Wednesday? But the reason why is because I wanted to give my uninhibited thoughts about a lot of crazy stuff that went on this past weekend involved the Royal Rumble. Of course, this took place this past Saturday in San Antonio, Texas at the Alamo Dome. And of course, for those who watch wrestling on the regular or for those who don't, the Royal Rumble is the start of the road to WrestleMania because, of course, both of the matches for the men and the women, the Royal Rumble matches, sort of, let us know who's going to fight to the death in order to be the number one contender for whoever's holding the highest championships in their respective divisions. And of course, we'll have the opportunity to face off against whoever holds those titles at the grandest stage of them all in WrestleMania, which is in April this year in Los Angeles. So, this match had a lot of this pay-per-view as a whole had a lot of major implications. So I had to just get on and talk about how I felt about this event. The Royal Rumble has a special place in my heart, like I have addressed on previous episodes, considering this pay-per-view was the start of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast 3 years ago, and all of the events that happened afterward. So I just had to come on and talk about how I felt about everything that happened. There was so much good, bad, and so much drama towards the very end of it. But your girl Stephanie is here to get into it. But before we get into the Royal Rumble, I have to, of course, be respectful and pay tribute to the idea that today is the very first day of Black History Month. Black History Month started on today, February 1st, 2023. And of course, with me being an African American woman first, and a content creator second, I have to put this part first because, of course, without me and the history of my ancestors, I cannot exist, in this form and do what it is that I do. And of course, throughout the entire month of February, I'm going to be honoring people in wrestling or even in wrestling media and so many different people in various ways during Black History Month. But please stay tuned for that on social media to see, what the definite plan is, because February kind of snuck up on us, but at least it is here and it's been an amazing day. I did celebrate Black History Month this morning by watching the first 3 new episodes of The Proud Family Louder and Prouder. So I am a Proud Family fan. So if you haven't checked that out, please do. The entire season is on Disney Plus. No plug. They didn't pay me to say that, but yeah. And also, Wakanda Forever. Black Panther 2 is on Disney Plus as well. So if you're celebrating doing that, then please do that as well. And then, of course, Miss Beyonce released her tour schedule for the Renaissance World Tour on today as well. So there's just lots of stuff going on at the start of Black History Month. But this month is basically for us to celebrate our excellence and our struggles and all the things that we have overcome to be who we are, in the United States and basically throughout the world. So I just had to come on here and say that. And I'm just really excited for what this month has to hold. I've already received a lot of love from various places being a Black woman in content creation and wrestling. And I hope that it just continues to happen. So just shout out to us for being Black, um, and just being amazing and just continuing to just raise the bar. So, without further ado, we're going to get into all of the ins and outs of the Royal Rumble. So, I have to start with my girls. And of course, since I start with the women, I have to discuss the Raw Women's Championship match involving Bianca Belair, the champion, and the challenger, Alexa Bliss. Now, this came to be, of course, because, of course, Alexa and Bianca were friends at a certain point. But then there was the reemergence of Bray Wyatt and of course all of his personalities with Uncle Howdy and so many other people and stuff. And Alexa, of course, had gone to therapy and worked out all of her issues, or so she thought. And considering the reemergence of Bray Wyatt has basically brought back a lot of these feelings that she thought she worked out in therapy, she started taking out a lot of her issues on Bianca Belair. And so when Bianca asked her, what's good, what's really going on, Alexa was just saying that she wanted to challenge her for the title and prove that, she didn't need the dark magic of Bray Wyatt in order to win it, and that people have been underestimating her for a while, and she just really wanted to push through and do it. So that's where we get this match from. She also attacked Bianca Belair multiple times using stairs and even punching her and even like utilizing the steel steps to crack Bianca's jaw at one point. And then she also attacked her like with a vase full of roses. So Alexa has basically been going crazy and letting the darkness run through her and stuff like that. So that's where we have this match. And Bianca, of course, looked amazing here with her pink outfit and everything. And also, let me just say that I thought it was amazing that she was able to perform like this in front of her family. I love watching her family be supportive of her in her wrestling career. As her mom and her dad, and her brother. They were front row, and they were also front row for the men's Royal Rumble match, which Montez, of course, her husband, were participated in and got eliminated from really quickly right in front of them. But thankfully, their baby, their by blood baby, was actually able to pull out a win here in this match. She looked great in it. She was very strong in it. And then something that really freaked me out a little bit was the fact that Alexa Bliss has had a tendency to look pretty strong in a lot of her matches due to the base of her athleticism, because of course she was a former cheerleader and a former gymnast, and she utilizes a lot of that in her background as a wrestler. But it seemed as if none of that really helped out, even though she did try to break down Bianca Belair by hitting her in her stronger points, which are of course her legs and her knees and her arms. It just didn't work out for her. Alexa really couldn't get the job done here, and even though she looked devious and she looked amazing in her outfit, she still wound up losing. Bianca Belair came out the winner, and she is still the Raw Women's Championship. And yeah, Bianca basically wrecked her and choked Alexa Bliss out and basically just, slammed her and hit her with the KOD and won the match. So we're living in Bianca's world, and this is amazing because of course I love her. Everyone loves her. And of course she did show up on Raw this past Monday and talk about, what her plans are for WrestleMania, but we will get to that a little bit later on in this broadcast. But Bianca is the winner. But sadly enough, Alexa was looking pretty dejected after she lost her match, and she was looking pretty sad. But then the lights went out and she looked up at the Titantron, and on the screen were all of her memories of her playing in the playground and all of the things that she would do when she used to run with Bray Wyatt, including when she cost Bray Wyatt his WrestleMania match against Randy Orton by taking over the darkness, and then he would leave and then of course come back. And Uncle Howdy's voice was saying to her in the video, "Do you think you're in control now? Do you think you're in control now?" And Alexa was just looking like she I had never seen her look so defeated before. Like, she looked really sad, like, maybe she couldn't do this without him. Maybe she couldn't, be this fearsome creature or this face of evil that she said that she was, a couple weeks ago on Raw without Uncle Howdy and his influence. But my thing is, when it comes to Alexa, she was a champion multiple times before she even hooked up with Bray Wyatt. So I'm wondering if now her character is just going to go on yet another dark journey and then, reconnect with the Bray Wyatt craziness now, or will she reach a point where she realizes she doesn't have to do that and just, decide to just move forward and continue to embrace her goddessness as she used to do back in the day? Who knows? But honestly, I thought this was really intriguing. But, Bianca came out the winner. So yeah, I thought this was interesting. And moving forward with more women's action, of course, we had the 30-woman Royal Rumble match, and this match was pretty good. It was pretty solid. I really enjoyed it. For the most part, you had all of the people who participated in it. Every woman that you could imagine was going to be in it, whether they be active on the roster or not, or even if you didn't imagine it, they were there, and it was really, really cool. And as I stated on my Royal Rumbles predictions episode that you can go back and listen to, I had predicted that Rhea Ripley or a returning Naomi could very well win the Royal Rumble match, and I gave my reasons as to why. But of course, I'll get to who won in a minute. Like, this match was really cool, and I felt like it was stacked with current and actually fully, full-time active roster members with their women. You had, of course, Zelina Vega, who came out dressed as Jury from Street Fighter 6. You had so many women like your Tegan Noxes, your Liv Morgans, your Shotzi Blackhearts. So many women came to participate in it. But something that really shocked me was the idea that Michelle McCool's music started, and honestly, I didn't expect her to participate in it because when her music started, I thought it was going to be Layla, her former tag team partner. But they did earlier show, like on the camera, they showed Michelle McCool in the audience with her two children that she had, of course, with The Undertaker, her husband. But when her music hit, the graphics said Michelle McCool, and she was kind of looking confused, but at the same time, she was like, okay, fine, let's go. And she got in the ring wearing sort of like sweatpants and a bustier and her Uggs, and she hopped out of the audience and into the match, and she did a phenomenal job. It was really cool, no pun intended, because her finisher is basically the Styles Clash. But either way, it was a really cool moment to see her hop out of the audience and into action like she had never left. This was really inspiring. Like, it was just really cool. I just really wish that it was Layla though, because I really do miss Layla in terms of wrestling, and it's just like I feel like her presence isn't really addressed enough on mainstream wrestling media outlets, or even not even just in media outlets, or just with WWE period. They really don't mention Layla a lot, and I'm wondering if there's a reason behind that I just don't know, because of course Layla was, a part of the Divas era, which was going on when I was a kid and wasn't really fully into the behind the scenes stuff in wrestling just yet. But if it was Layla, I would have lost my mind because I just really loved her back in the day. But hopefully one day, she'll participate in a WWE thing at some point, because her and Michelle McCool as Lay Cool, they were crazy, and yet they were kind of annoying. And then they also had that controversial segment involving Mickey James and that body shaming, which was terrible. But at the same time, they were still very, very memorable too. So if it was Layla, I would have lost it. But hopefully Layla one day can come back. But Michelle McCool did a fantastic job. Another part that I really loved about the women's Royal Rumble this year was the NXT presence. Of course, the NXT presence, because a lot of people, of course, since NXT has been starting to gain steam and people are starting, to watch it more on television, we get more exposed to these, men and women on NXT that comes on Tuesday nights. And we sort of look forward to the Rumble because you just never know who could be in these spots, if they're not chosen on Raw or SmackDown. And NXT had great representation when it came to their women. You had the NXT Women's Champion Roxanne Perez, who, as it stands now, is the youngest woman to ever participate in a Royal Rumble match, period, at this point. And I thought that was really cool for her because Roxanne is a prodigy. This is something that she prides herself on because she started wrestling when she was very young. She was training in Texas. And of course, she trained with Booker T at Reality of Wrestling. And she was the youngest woman to win the Ring of Honor Women's Championship. And now here she is in NXT doing the dang thing. And in fact, she has to defend her NXT Women's title against Team Toxic Attraction, Gigi Dolan and JC Jane. But this was a really good start for her, and I was really happy that she had this moment. Sadly, she didn't win, but at least she was able to participate in it and do all this amazing stuff, even though she's just starting with her WWE career. She's already done so much as it stands. Like, she is the first winner of the Iron Survivor match on NXT. She's won the NXT Women's title. Like, she's even participated on an episode of SmackDown before. There is so much ahead for Roxanne Perez, and I can't wait to see what it is. Like, I was so happy for her in this moment. Then, in the vein of NXT, you had Indy Hartwell, the impressive one, pop up at number 26. This was really cool, and she did a thumbs up at the WrestleMania sign. It was amazing, and I really don't remember how long she lasted, but it was still good seeing her. And of course, on commentary, they did mention that she was a former women's tag team champion, and they did mention that she used to run around with Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae as part of the Way, which weirdly they didn't mention that Austin Theory was a part of too. Like, y'all do remember that he was in that faction, right? But I guess they kind of want to take away the stigma of him being a goofball and sort of make him more as like this serious, cocky, brash young heel type of thing. But either way, they were talking about Indy and everything she's done in NXT and just how impressive she is with her big boot and her power and everything. So that was really cool. It was cool to see her. And then they also, of course, made mention of Index, which was really cute too. But, maybe at some point we'll get more Index but as it stands, Indy Hartwell participating in the Royal Rumble was great. And then we also had Zoe Stark participate in the Rumble. Miss, I like to run over people in the NXT parking lot and act like nothing happened. Yeah, she was in it too. But either way, all of the NXT women, who participated did a phenomenal job. This was really cool. It was really cool to see them. And I thought that maybe we would get, NXT men in the Royal Rumble, but that didn't wind up happening, but it's still okay. And of course, now I'm going to go into more parts of the Women's Rumble that had me shook. Chelsea Green? Chelsea Green made her WWE debut, I guess you could say re-debut, because she's been in WWE multiple times before, but she made a more serious re-debut at the Royal Rumble this past Saturday, and I was really happy to see her because she had been doing, really great work in the indies and also on Impact Wrestling as well. And there was a rumor amongst the dirt sheets that maybe she would be coming back to WWE or signing with them at some point, but there was no confirmation, of course, from her or from her husband, Matt Cardona, as far as I know. But she popped up at the Rumble, and it was really good to see her, and she got such a huge reaction. But the saddest part about this was the fact that she wasn't in the match that long, because in terms of breaking records, she is now the woman who's been eliminated the quickest out of the Women's Royal Rumble now. And she was able to brag about it later on social media and say, well, I made history. I popped up and I made history. And yes, ma'am, you did. And of course, on Raw now, if you watch Monday, she confronted Adam Pearce about, not having things her way in the locker room. So it's low-key looking like she's, sort of taking on this aura as, a type of a Karen attitude type of thing. Like, this isn't this way and it should be this way. And how come I don't have my candy? How come I don't have my room temperature water and all this other stuff? She's having all this divitude. And yeah, she's on Raw now. And I'm really excited to see her. And I hope that everything works out for her. I really do hope that everything continues to work out for Chelsea Green in this WWE run. Because of course, something that a lot of people know about her is the fact that whenever she starts something, sometimes she'll have an injury and that will stunt her momentum. And I'm really hoping that now that won't get in the way at all. So kudos to Chelsea Green for making history. And I hope that she continues to make some more in the WWE as it stands. Also, Natalia came back and she came back with a beautiful glistening pink and black and silver outfit with a beret on and some sunglasses. She looked like a rock star here. It looked very retro. I liked it very much. It was giving kind of like old school heart foundation type of thing. And of course, she came back not only to try to win the Royal Rumble, but get revenge on Shayna Baszler because Shayna is the one who was responsible for breaking her nose on SmackDown months ago. And we hadn't seen her in a while, and she had to get surgery and stuff like that, and she was away. And now she's back. And she did a pretty good job, and I can't wait to see what else she has in store for her next run in WWE too. And then in terms of returns, we had the return of various personas in the Women's Royal Rumble. And one of them was in the form of Piper Niven. Now, for those who may not be as familiar with the Piper Niven name, Miss Piper Niven, this was her name before she got called up to the main roster from NXT UK, and her name got changed to Dewdrop. And when her name got changed to Dewdrop, a lot of people who knew her as Piper Niven were highly angry about it. They were just like, why would they change it to a stupid name like Dewdrop? Why are they doing this? Her name is Piper Niven. You know how wrestling fans get online when we see something and we see a change that we feel doesn't really need to happen? Like, oh my God, we lose our minds about it. We go crazy and it's just too much for us. But now she was able to make her return after dealing with some health issues as Piper Niven under the Triple H creative regime. And I was really happy for her in this sense because it looked like she felt more, comfortable in that space as Piper Niven. And I was glad that she was able to participate in the Rumble this time. And maybe now she'll be taken more seriously, a little bit more seriously as a threat. Because she has had championship opportunities with Becky Lynch and other women as well. Well, and Bianca Belair, because Bianca famously lifted her on an episode of Raw. So, she's had her moments, but here's hoping that she will be able to be the Piper Niven that a lot of us know her to be from the Mae Young Classic or from NXT UK. So, shout out to Piper Niven and her persona coming back in that way. And she looked really cute. So, that was cool. Then we had a very polarizing return in the form of Nia Jax. Nia Jax came in at number 30 with the Women's Royal Rumble. This was very shocking because when she got released from WWE a few years ago, everything that it just felt like she was always in the news, in wrestling news in a very controversial way for some takes that she had about her time in WWE. It seemed like she was very sad or angry about how things went and that she would never come back or probably never wrestle again. She had said that in a couple of interviews. And she had also said plenty of other unpopular things about pretty hot button topics that I won't get into here. So her coming in at number 30 was very shocking. And I know a lot of people, of course, were sort of hung up on how she came out and then the clock didn't run before we saw her number and she was number 30. But either way, this was shocking as F to a lot of people. And then it was even more shocking because a lot of people were really predicting, including myself, that Naomi was going to be a mystery person that was going to come back because we hadn't seen her in so long since the walkout she had with Mercedes Moné. But I found it funny that on Twitter throughout that night, Naomi was on Twitter and she was tweeting things like "I love y'all" and with a green heart and something like that. So she knew that people were talking about her and were bringing her up within the context of the Rumble, but she just didn't participate. And no one knows where her contract stands at this moment. There are rumors. There have been people, who are insiders or who claim to be insiders who feel that Naomi could come back. There are people who feel that maybe she won't come back, but she hasn't really said anything as of yet. Maybe I'm hoping that maybe this might mean that she'll come back in another meaningful way, or if she doesn't come back, she still is doing her modeling thing and she has other stuff that she could be doing as well. Like if she doesn't come back to WWE, she'll still be fine regardless. It doesn't matter. But yeah, Nia Jax is back in WWE, and a lot of people were wondering if this was a one-off, but it doesn't really seem that way because Nia has a t-shirt on shop.com as it stands. And then her and Raquel Rodriguez had a moment where they had a standoff, and I wasn't able to find a picture of it, but her and Raquel Rodriguez as these tall, statuesque women having a standoff was a fantastic moment in the women's rumble. It was really cool. So maybe if Nia is going to come back in a more on a more permanent basis, that's a match that they could explore. That's something that they could do. But either way, Nia Jax coming back, albeit it was very polarizing for a lot of people, it was still a really cool return regardless. So yeah, welcome back, Nia. Miss Ma'am. It was cool. Um, and then in terms of personas returning, we had Asuka come back, but it wasn't just your regular everyday Asuka. This was advanced Asuka. Advanced Asuka came out. But of course, you know, for those who followed her in her Japanese career, this is Kana. And when she came out with new music. Like the intro to the music still sounded the same. And you could see her graphic, like her name graphic up there. So you knew it was her. But she came out with a more vicious looking mask. Um, and then once she finally took the mask off, she had this paint that was like blue and white everywhere, and it made her look way more vicious than we had been seeing her in the past few years. And Corey Graves on commentary was acting like he was just over the moon about it. Like if you go back and watch the Royal Rumble and hear the sounds that he made when he saw Asuka take her mask off, it would make you pause everything and just be like, bro, what's wrong with you? But that's how excited he was, and everybody in the audience was about this too. Because they said on commentary that once upon a time, Miss Asuka was one of the most feared women, you know, in all of wrestling, period. Not even just in NXT, but also in Japanese wrestling as well. And I thought this was really cool because a few weeks ago, I had just watched a video with Mercedes Moné talking about facing the best of Japanese women in wrestling. And she called Asuka Kana instead of Asuka. And I thought that was really interesting. And now here we are in the today of things, and Kana is here. Kana Asuka is here. And then to make matters worse, on Raw, she decided to dress up like a rich auntie when Carmella, who is finally returned to Raw, was making her speech, and she had all kinds of mist drooling out of her mouth. So Miss Ma'am is popping back up into the things, and she is trying to make us fear her again. And I love it. I love it so much. There is so much that I love about this. Oh, I just love it. And I can't wait to see this iteration of Asuka. I really can't. I really, really can't. So, yeah, this was an amazing part of the Royal Rumble. Amazing. Absolutely stellar. But in the end, the winner of the Women's Royal Rumble was Rhea Ripley, the Eradicator, who just earlier that night got speared by Beth Phoenix, who was getting her lick back from Extreme Rules last year when she and Edge got attacked after the match that Edge and I believe Finn Balor had with each other. Like that happened, and of course, you know, they attacked Edge and they attacked Beth Phoenix with the chair and hit a concerto on her in front of Edge, and they had been missing for a while. But of course, Edge, you know, I'll talk more about that, had his little moment at the men's rumble. And then Beth came out and speared Rhea because Rhea was trying to beat up on Edge because Rhea doesn't know how to mind her own womanly business because she likes to butt in the men's business too. So yeah, Rhea had a crazy night. But to go from being speared by an OG like Beth Phoenix to winning the Royal Rumble has to feel absolutely iconic for the most part. This crazy woman was literally in the final three with Asuka and Liv Morgan. And what's so funny is when they were all on the apron, it low-key looked like when Asuka won the first Royal Rumble, years ago when she and Nikki Bella were fighting on the apron, on the ring apron, and then she finally kicked her off, and then Asuka wound up winning it. It was very, parallel to that, except when Asuka and Rhea were fighting, Asuka was getting ready to spit the blue mist in Rhea's face, but Rhea ducked and it hit Liv, and Liv was blind and she couldn't see. But Rhea finally eliminated Asuka, and then Liv was punching on Rhea's, hands, even though she really couldn't see. And then at a certain point, Rhea reached up with her core strength and her legs and slammed Liv Morgan down on the floor. And that's how she wound up winning the Royal Rumble. And this crazy being absolutely deserves this. I know that Rhea has been going crazy with the Judgment Day and getting in the faces of both men and women, but mostly men at this point. And because she's been running around with the Judgment Day and with Dom as his mommy or whatever, it's like lately a part of me was wondering if Rhea was even focused, on the women's division as it stood anymore. Like I was wondering, like, since she's the Eradicator, and she's running around with all these men, does she even want to be Raw Women's Champion? Does she want to be a champion anymore? Like, does she want to even fight the women anymore? Like, I was wondering that. But her winning this kind of just proved to me, like, okay, well, maybe she can do both. Maybe she really can do both, and she does deserve to win, considering the last Royal Rumble she was in, she wound up losing to Bianca Belair because it was her time. And considering the last time she was Raw Women's Champion, it didn't really go as well. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later. Rhea Ripley really does deserve this win. I was happy for her. And even in one of the clips, they showed her, jumping up and down because she was so excited. And I'm glad that she's having this moment. So congratulations to Rhea Ripley for winning the Women's Royal Rumble this year. And now, as it stands, this past Monday on Raw, Rhea decided, she made her decision really early. Like, she decided immediately that she wanted to go after Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown Women's title. And this was met with a little bit of mixed reviews. There were a lot of people online on social media, on Twitter, who were talking about how they felt like Rhea choosing Charlotte was the right choice. There are a lot of people who felt like this match was still going to, cook regardless. But then you had a lot of people who felt like Rhea could have just chose Bianca, and that would have, either made more sense to them, or, it would have fit a narrative, which is true, because there was this one point where Rhea was running around with the Judgment Day, and then she ran into Bianca Belair backstage at Raw. And they had this standoff with each other, with Bianca holding the title, and they were just staring at each other, and then Bianca just strutted off. And you sort of had this look, Rhea had this look like, maybe, at some point that could be a thing. But nothing really ever came of that. And Rhea and Bianca never really, ran in each other's circles anymore after that point. So it would have made sense if you were to just go back to that moment specifically. And it also would have made sense in the NXT of it all, because of course there was a point where Rhea Ripley was NXT Women's Champion, and her and Bianca had that face off at NXT TakeOver Portland for that title, and then Bianca wound up losing, and then Charlotte wound up beating up on Rhea, which started their rivalry in the first place, because Rhea wanted Charlotte to challenge her, since Charlotte had won the Royal Rumble in 2020 that year. So there's a whole trajectory in it that's just kind of like, it's a circle. Because even when you think back on NXT during that time, Rhea was still beefing with Bianca, and Bianca felt like Rhea was overlooking her. And then Charlotte even went to NXT and was like, look, this is a conversation for champions. You move to the side because you're not important. And it's funny how the tables have turned now. Charlotte is SmackDown Women's Champion. Bianca is Raw Women's Champion. And here again, Rhea is the odd woman out, just like she was when she lost the NXT Women's title to Charlotte at WrestleMania in 2020. And regardless of whether people think whether or not it counts because it happened during the pandemic, it did count, okay? It happened, and Rhea lost. And Rhea lost the NXT Women's title to Charlotte at that point. And then on top of that, Rhea also lost the Raw Women's title to Charlotte Flair in this match at SummerSlam in 2021 when it was Rhea and Nikki ASH fighting in a triple threat match with Charlotte for the title. So when you really think about it, there's a little bit more layer in the story with Rhea and Charlotte. Because when Charlotte won that Raw Women's title, like back, that just set Rhea back a whole lot. Not only just setting Nikki ASH back, but I feel like a lot of people don't remember that that happened in SummerSlam of 2021 because people really did get lost in the Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair 26 seconds of it all. People really did get lost in that and they sort of forgot about that happening. So I can understand how a lot of people could feel that Rhea not challenging Bianca, was probably a waste, but I didn't see it that way either because in Rhea's mind, Charlotte is the reason behind her falling so far in the women's division. So she wants to make her pay. And considering Charlotte Flair is a face now, it makes sense because Rhea is an evil villain who breaks in people's houses in Thanksgiving and Christmas and ruins their holidays. So it makes sense to me. And I'm glad that it's happening. So congratulations to Rhea. I'm glad she's having this moment. And I can't wait to see what she does on SmackDown along with her Poppy, who is still beefing with his dad because he can. So yeah. That was cool. The whole Women's Royal Rumble was fantastic. I loved it. So, moving into the men's side of things, before we get into all of the action of the men, I got to talk about the return of Pat McAfee. Even though his Titantron images really freak me out because it's showing all these images of him jumping up and down, and I can't explain it, but stuff like that really freaks me out. It just, I don't know. I guess it just really triggers my trypophobia. I don't know if that's the right word for it. But either way, Pat McAfee came back and I was just so happy to see him. And of course, they had it on commentary, first once the pay-per-view got started. And Michael Cole and Corey Graves, were talking about, everything that's to look forward to in the night. And then, okay, they were like, the men's Royal Rumble is going to start right now. And then Pat McAfee's music starts playing and Michael Cole and Corey are looking shocked. And Corey starts yelling at Michael saying, "Excuse me? So Pat McAfee is here and you didn't tell me? Blah, 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 blah." And Michael was like, "I didn't know anything about this. I was just on the phone with him this morning and he was in his Thunderdome in Indianapolis, which is where, Pat McAfee lives. And he didn't say anything about coming." So Michael really didn't know. And he stood up like he like it was a family member that they hadn't seen in a long time, like he hadn't seen in such a long time. And it was such a precious moment because Pat was having his moment in the ring, posing and primping and going crazy, with everybody. And then when he went to Michael Cole at the commentary desk, he gave him a hug. And Michael was like, "Hey, brother." And I was just like, oh my God, their friendship. It's one of the most wholesome things in all of wrestling. Because, of course, I know this as a commentator. When you have a buddy that you love to commentate with, and they're gone for a minute, you miss them, and you gotta miss them, and you're just like, bro, I miss my buddy, man. But then when you reunite, you about to get crunk and be happy. And that's what this was. Their friendship makes me so happy. And Michael Cole has said multiple times he feels like Pat McAfee really gave him a second wind when it comes to his commentary career. So the idea that they had this beautiful, precious moment on, a live broadcast was just amazing. Like, I just love healthy male friendship love like this. It was just so beautiful. It was such a precious moment. I love their friendship. Now, we don't know if Pat is going to be back on SmackDown now because, of course, that was, he was off of SmackDown due to College Game Day stuff with ESPN. And Wade Barrett was there in the place of him. But I hope he does come back on SmackDown because Wade Barrett is cool and all. And he's funny. He has his funny moments, but he ain't Pat McAfee. I'm sorry. He's just not Pat. And I've missed him so much. And I'm just glad that they get to have this moment together. This also low-key makes me wish that there was a day where Michael Cole and Taz could get back together and commentate. But that's just the ruthless aggression 2000s kid in me that's just, wishing for that to happen. But, Taz is on the AEW side of things. But either way, this was a beautiful moment. And then just the idea that Corey just got so bothered by him being there. I'm just like, Corey, what is your problem? What is really good? Why do you hate him? Y'all are from the same state. Y'all should stick by each other instead of you hating him. But whatever. Corey's crazy. Moving forward with the men's Royal Rumble match, Dominic came out in his daddy's mask, which leads me to believe that he attacked him. Point blank, period. He attacked his dad and ruined his Royal Rumble moment, and he came out there in the mask just to mess with everybody and troll everybody. And I know on Raw he was talking all this trash about how Cody Rhodes ruined his chance to win the Rumble. But my thing is, how are you going to direct all of your blame on this one person who did win when there were like 28 other people besides you? How does that work? Like, can you stop, please? Like, he just has so many excuses as to why he doesn't succeed. And it's just like, Dominic, shut up. Just, oh, he's such a spoiled brat. And then, speaking of commentary, Pat McAfee literally said that Rey Mysterio, has done so many great things besides having one of the worst kids in the entire history of having kids. And that was one of the most hilarious takes I heard throughout the entire night. It was so funny. Imagine having the worst kid in the entire history of having kids. That's literally from like the creation of Earth to now. That's a long time. But yeah, Dominic is ratchet and I'm sick of him. I'm really tired of him. But he didn't win, so you did all that for nothing. Then another part I liked about the Royal Rumble was Booker T, the two-time Hall of Famer, coming into the Royal Rumble, looking amazing as ever, I might add. I know people had their feelings about Booker T, about some of his takes or whatever, and stuff like that. And I know he's like a commentator on NXT now, but it's just you have to respect what he's done for the wrestling business, as a black man. And as much as people, he might get on folks' nerves or whatever, it's like Booker T is that dude and he still looks really good, because of course he is a coach, like I mentioned before, at Reality of Wrestling. Shout out to them. And it's just like he even still participates in matches out there in Texas. So the idea of him participating in the Royal Rumble wasn't completely surprising to me. I loved it. I really loved it. It was cool. Even though he didn't get to stay in that long, it was still good to see him in the match, because he said on NXT a few weeks ago, he was like, hey, if I get that call, I get that call. And he got that call. So shout out to Booker T for looking amazing and having probably the longest dreads I've ever seen on a man. Like, his hair is amazing, and whoever keeps it up does a fantastic job. Like, Jesus Christ, that is a lot of hair to have. But yeah, he did a fantastic job. And also shout out to Charmel, his Hall of Fame wife, who was there, being a support system for him. It's really cool. Their love story makes me happy. Their relationship goals, I love them. So yeah, shout out to Booker T. He did a good job. Then you had Edge come back. And Edge, I feel like Edge's goal here wasn't necessarily to win the Royal Rumble. I feel like his goal was just to get revenge on Judgment Day, because all of the male members of Judgment Day were in the Royal Rumble match. And I really think he was ultimately just there to get his lick back, because of course he has won the Royal Rumble more than once, even more recently in 2021. So it's not like he really needed it this time. He really came back for revenge, and I'm so glad that he got a level of it. And then he got more of it on Monday on Raw as well. So he got to beat up on the dudes, and that was really cool. And then on probably one of the best pictures of the night, he was running after Finn, who was running away from him. And then Finn tripped and he proceeded to beat up on him some more. And then when Rhea Ripley here again decided to get in men's business, here comes Beth Phoenix with the spear. She got her lick back too. And that was really cool. So yeah, they're just a power couple, and I live for them as a power couple. Like, they spear together, they ride together, they die together. Bad boys for life. Or in this case, Bad Edge and Beth for life, because literally. It was amazing. I love that. And I hope that Beth and Rhea get a one-on-one match at some point. They need a one-on-one match. If I can just get a one-on-one match between Beth and Rhea, or even a one-on-one match between Beth and Bianca, I'll be so happy. What if Beth challenges Bianca for for the Raw Women's Championship at WrestleMania? That would be sick too. But yeah, either way, I'm glad Edge and Beth got their licks back, because that beating that they took at Extreme Rules was really rough. It was really, really rough. So yeah, I'm happy for them. Then, in probably the most stunning moment of the men's Royal Rumble, Brock Lesnar got eliminated by the almighty Bobby Lashley. Thank you, baby Jesus, and the grown one too. He heard my cry. He heard my cry, okay? Because on my last episode where I gave my Royal Rumble predictions, I talked about how I feel like Brock Lesnar really does have a problem whenever he sees any black male champion, because somebody in the comments on TikTok decided to get in their feelings because I mentioned Brock having an issue with black champions, and I didn't specify black male ones, because this dude decided to be smart and was all like, "Oh, so he has a problem with, you know, Jade and all the other women too." And I'm just like, dude, you know what I meant. But either way, um I mentioned that I felt like Brock Lesnar always has an issue when it comes to black men having bigger, like having the world champion, or having any modicum of success headed for a title that doesn't involve him, or he just hates it for some reason. And he always beats up on these black champions, or these black prospective champions, and don't expect to get any lick back or any punishment back from these folks. And this is where Bobby Lashley said, not today. Because Brock came out there and he was in the Royal Rumble, even though I ultimately felt like he didn't necessarily need to be in the Royal Rumble, but that's another conversation. Like Bobby Lashley came in the Royal Rumble, and then they had a couple of licks between each other. And just when it looked like Brock was about to F5 him out of the ring, Bobby didn't let Brock make a punk out of him twice in 1 week, and he fell down and finally eliminated Brock Lesnar, and he hit the commentary desk and shocked everybody. And I feel like not a lot of people are discussing it now because of all of the stuff that happened at the end of the Royal Rumble. But Bobby Lashley may not have won the Rumble itself, but he won the night for me, because I just didn't want Bobby Lashley to look like a punk. Because on Monday for Raw 30, like, Brock ruined his chance to win the US title from Austin Theory. He attacked him on the season premiere of Raw in Brooklyn a couple of months back. And then he attacked him again on SmackDown last Friday before the Rumble. So I was just like, okay, Bobby, how many times are you going to let this dude, who you clearly match up with in weight class, make a punk out of you? And Bobby said, not any more time, Stephanie. And he eliminated Brock. Now, mind you, I didn't expect Brock Lesnar to throw a king size temper tantrum like he did, but whatever, he'll get over it. Bobby beat him. And this is a chance for them to have the match that I really feel like they deserve to have at WrestleMania, if that's the case. Because the last match they had wasn't really as good as it could have been. So hopefully this time they'll actually have a, stellar and fantastic match. But Bobby Lashley really won the Royal Rumble moment thing to me at first. Because he eliminated Bobby, and I felt avenged from that. My inner African American champion within me felt avenged from that. So hey, he did that, and I was glad. I was glad for him, because I'd be sick of it. And here again, this is Brock throwing his temper tantrum, because when Baron Corbin was making his entrance, he ran into an F5, and he basically couldn't even participate in the match no more. And then Seth finally threw Baron Corbin in the ring and then eliminated him very quickly too. So yeah, Brock Lesnar acted like a baby. Whatever, he'll be all right. And even though Brock Lesnar does get on my nerves, I will admit that him and Gunther having this standoff was really cool. because Gunther, the IC champion, is that guy at this point because he came in at number one, I believe it was either number one or number two, um, in the men's rumble this year. And then Sheamus came in, and of course that was sort of like a replay on their moment, from their match at Clash of the Castle last year. Like that felt like a replay of that moment. But watching Brock and Gunther stand, like this was an amazing visual. And maybe at some point they'll revisit that. But honestly, I just feel like I just need a little bit of a break from Brock because Brock really be thinking everything is all about him, and I just be sick of it sometimes. But also to stay on the subject of Gunther, he had an amazing performance throughout this Royal Rumble match. Like he stayed in this match over an hour and had multiple amazing moments with people. And it was just really good to see that. And the fact that he was a part of the final two along with Cody, that was really good. And it's pretty clear that in the Triple H creative regime, they really are trusting him and strapping the rocket to him. And for someone who started out in NXT UK and was basically the longest reigning modern champion as the NXT UK champion at a certain point, I feel like he really did deserve this. Then on top of that, we all sort of felt like his career was over after they changed his name from Walter to Gunther, but he's still making it work for him. Imperium is still working for him now that they've all gotten back together collectively. Um with the three members, because the fourth member isn't a part of it anymore, Alexander Wolf. But either way, I know he doesn't work for the company anymore, but either way, Imperium is working. Gunther is strong, and he looked amazing in this Royal Rumble match, and I was really proud of him for that. So yeah, this was really cool. This was a really cool moment, and Gunther really does deserve his flowers, for how he performed in the Royal Rumble match. And then, of course, you have this moment, which felt like to me a replay of well, actually two moments, because I did see on social media where someone said that Caprice Coleman, who you might know as a commentator but who's also a wrestler in Ring of Honor, had that moment with somebody else in a match. But it also reminded me more recently of Ricochet having a moment with Carmelo Hayes on NXT Worlds Collide, which was on my birthday last year, and they had a moment where they jumped across the ring at each other and hit each other. Like this moment right here, I feel like whoever was there to witness that in person, everybody who was there is blessed, okay? Because this moment was sick. The idea that Logan Paul keeps giving us these moments with these trained wrestlers who've been wrestling way longer than him, clearly, is just out of this world. And I know people have their feelings about Logan Paul and his brother and how obnoxious they are and how sometimes they've used their notoriety for very problematic and negative things. Um as Logan Paul the wrestler as it stands keeps giving us amazing moments like this with Ricochet and like his match that he had with Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel. And even though a lot of people really did feel like he didn't deserve a world title shot, on the basis of him just being this dude who just started, like it feels like every match he has, even the one that he had with The Miz at SummerSlam and the one he had at WrestleMania last year where he tagged with The Miz against Los Mysterios, he did a good job. Like for somebody who just started wrestling maybe last year, he's doing a good job. He's putting the work in. It's weird to me, and I know this might sound very unpopular and very problematic to a degree. Um, and I apologize to whoever this might offend, but it feels like to me the same respect that we gave to Bad Bunny for putting in all of the work that he did to become to train to be a wrestler, to participate in the matches that he did a few years ago, we're not giving that same respect to Logan Paul. And it's a little bit weird to me, but I understand why, because Bad Bunny isn't as problematic and doesn't come with all that baggage like Logan Paul does and his brother does. I get it. I 100% get it. But I just feel like if Logan Paul is doing the work and he's not coming in there thinking he's obligated to all these things, he's working his way up and having moments like this, then what's the problem? But yeah, please don't cancel me for that take, but yeah, I just feel like, if he just keeps giving us moments like this and he just continues to get better in the ring, like, we're gonna just continue to eat off of it. So yeah, Logan and Ricochet flew high like superheroes, and this was great. My only other negative about this part is just I wish that Logan Paul experimented with other colors instead of just yellow and black. There are other colors to wear for gear, but I mean, it's his choice. But I want to see him in other colors now. But this moment between him and Ricochet was insane, and I feel like we'll be telling our children about this. But yeah, it was great. And then Logan Paul eliminating Seth. That also made it worse too. That was insane too. But either way, you know, him versus Seth, if they fight each other, which is really looks like they're alluding to, because they alluded to it on Raw with Seth Rollins had a backstage interview, that's going to be a sick match. I look forward to it. I love that Seth Rollins is in a place where, even though a lot of people feel, and he may feel, that he should main event WrestleMania a lot of the time, he could not main event WrestleMania and still be in a good place, because he's that guy. Like, he's that guy that you can trust when it comes to character development, when it comes to feuds, when it comes to being petty within the feuds. Like, he really is that dude. And even if he's not a champion, he's still, highly regarded as one of the best. He's the architect for a reason. And he's not just the architect in that ring, he's the architect, when it comes to storytelling. And I just feel like him as a storyteller, possibly telling the story of being angry that this dude who just came in from YouTube eliminated him from the Royal Rumble is a pretty good story to tell headed towards WrestleMania. I'm here for it. I'm really here for it. But I didn't expect Logan to eliminate Seth at all. In my mind, I thought Seth was going to make it almost towards the end. But either way, it was still cool. I'm here for it. But in the end, the winner of the Men's Royal Rumble match was the American Nightmare, Cody. I got healed by Birmingham, Alabama doctors, Rhodes. Cody is our Men's Royal Rumble winner, and he has punched his ticket to WrestleMania in Inglewood/Hollywood, and he has made his intentions known. He told everybody on Raw in a very beautiful and passionate promo, because he's just really good at speeches. Like, oh my God, he should have a podcast someday. He's made his intentions clear. He made it in number 2 with Gunther, and that was really amazing. He won the match, and he is challenging Roman Reigns for all of the yummies, all of the goodies. He is going for all of the marbles, and Cody is challenging Roman for the undisputed Universal WWE Championship. Cody versus Roman Reigns. Rhodes versus Anoa'i. Bloodline versus Bloodline. If you need a match that fully personifies that verse in Cody Rhodes' song that says wrestling has more than one royal family, this is it. Okay? Because of course the Rhodes family may not be as deep as the Anoa'i family, but the legacy that they carry is still just as large. You got Cody out here, you got Dustin the Natural Rhodes still in AEW, finna start a beef with Swerve Strickland, who just doesn't know how to shut up and be respectful in all things. Yes, I still don't like that man. And of course you have Dusty Rhodes, rest in peace. All of their legacies just run deep in wrestling. And then you have the Anoa'is. You have that bloodline. Everybody named Mama from that bloodline have made impacts, by and large throughout wrestling for a number of years. Yokozuna, The Rock, Tamina, Nia Jax, the Usos, Rikishi, everybody in that bloodline. They're all making their dreams come true. And this is another moment where it's bloodline versus bloodline. And I'm very excited about this. Of course, you just never know what could happen, because stuff is subject to change, because this is wrestling. But as it stands now, I can't wait to see Cody versus Roman. This is Cody's moment. He could very well be the one to dethrone the over 800-day champion in Roman Reigns. He really could. And if he does, he would have deserved this moment and he would have won that championship for the honor of his family and for the honor of his father, who never won that title, the WWE championship, because of whatever technicality happened back in the day. He could do that for his dad. And even when he won the Royal Rumble, he looked up at the sky and said, "I did it, Dad." And that was just so sweet. And it's so heartbreaking when you really think about the fact that Dusty may not be physically here to see his baby boy, make it to the top of the moon or the top of the ladder or whatever it is, the people say. But at the same time, spiritually, Dusty is watching from above and saying, "That is my boy." And it'll be a beautiful moment. Even though I know some people are saying that they feel like Roman shouldn't lose at WrestleMania and he should just keep it going. I don't know, guys. Cody might just take it. I'm here for Cody. I'm so happy for him. And also, I just love that people love Cody so much that they're dressing their children. Children want to dress like him. And he actually interacted with him and gave him one of his belts. And I was just like, the babies. Yes, it was great. So, yeah, that's great. But moving on to the main event, child. The main event, child. This main event, child. Y'all look at me. This main event, child. This main event between Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens with the added layer of Sami. I cannot believe we live in these times, guys. I can't believe it. We're literally living in the era of one of the most dramatic and craziest wrestling stories I've ever seen in my life. I've been watching wrestling since I was 4, guys. And if you've listened to the show, you've heard me talk about what my origins are as a fan. I have never seen anything this dramatic, anything this layered, anything this crazy before. You have this faction made up of an actual family. Invite someone in from the outside. And this person from the outside just wants to belong to something. And he wants to belong so bad that he's willing to do anything. And it's so crazy what, he'll do to try to belong. But it came to a head this week. You had the trial of Sami Zayn. You had him being told to stay away from SmackDown until Saturday. All of these layers. You had Sami and Jay actually being cool with each other after months of them fighting back and forth. There's just so much. There's so much happening in this story. But we got to talk about the match first. And Kevin gave it a good try. He did. And there were a couple of moments where it almost seemed like Roman was even like even Sami was looking at Roman like, "Bro, why are you doing all this to him?" Like, he had Kevin all outside, in the barricade, on the steel steps. Like, they fought a whole war in and out of that ring at the Rumble. Like, and even Sami was looking shocked at Roman like, "Bro, like, I didn't know you was even this brutal." And Roman was just talking crap the whole time. And it was like building and just building. There was like levels to it. And of course, now Roman wound up winning and retaining his title now. He wound up retaining the title, but after he retained it and after everything was over and after Jay and Jimmy finally came out and they were about to bestow the lay upon Sami Zayn for proving his loyalty and invite him as a permanent part of the bloodline, Roman here again had yet another test to prove his loyalty. And he told Sami, "Look," because at this point, he had taken Kevin Owens, him and the Usos had taken Kevin Owens and handcuffed him, like a crucifix type of deal to the ring ropes. And he was just like, "Look, I want you to finish his job for me. I want you to ruin him, hit him with this chair. Because Roman, he was about to hit him with the chair himself, but then Sammy was like, nah, you ain't got to do all that. Like, it's okay. You've done enough. This is beneath you. You ain't got to do this. He was still trying to acquiesce to his ego, right? But Roman was like, okay, fine. Maybe I won't do it, but you'll do it. And this is where sugar started to hit the fan. Sammy was like, nah, like, I don't want to do this. And for every time he kept saying he didn't want to do it, Paul Heyman was behind him screaming at him saying, just do it. Just do it. Don't be a baby about it. Being his regular loud self. And then Roman started mushing Sami Zayn in his face. And when I say mush, that's like when you take your whole hand and just push the person's face backwards. That's mushing, okay? He mushed him 3 times. And this is where I got mad because I can't stand seeing that being done to somebody. And I know I couldn't stand anybody doing that to me because I don't like it when anybody gets in my face. Like that, I feel like that is a good way to get your clock clean. Like that's a good way to get your butt whooped. Okay. Do not mush me. Don't put your finger in my face and don't mush me. And this is why I really feel like me and Sammy are alike because Sammy clearly got pissed at him for doing that. And so he was like, okay, fine. And he was pretending like he was finna go along with it and hit Kevin with the chair. He did not hit Kevin with the chair. He hit Roman with the chair. And I am not afraid to admit how many times I have watched this back since Saturday. I almost couldn't go to sleep because, mind you, I was also hosting an after show for Women's Wrestling Talk, reacting to the Royal Rumble with other people. Please go back and watch that. But I couldn't sleep because I kept watching this back so many times. So many times. Even on TikTok, there were so many clips of it, so many things about it. You couldn't escape Sammy hitting Roman Reigns with the chair. You couldn't escape it. It was everywhere. And even on Raw, like they admitted that over 20 million people viewed that part multiple times. And I can't even blame nobody for it because it was so sick. And then what was even sicker about it was the reaction that the audience had. The whole audience was like, "Ah!" was screaming and was hype about it. I was like, oh my God, the drama, Jesus. And what made it even worse was the fact that Sammy looked at Jay, who was just spent. Jay was just emotionally spent. And Sammy was like, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry. Like, he looked like he really was saying, I'm sorry to Jay because him and Jay had a rough go of it in their friendship. Like their friendship was rough. Like Sammy really had to work on Jay. He didn't have to do that much work on Jimmy or do that much work on Roman, but he really had to work on Jay because Jay has been abused and he has been hurt and he don't trust nobody trying to come in there. But for him to go from I don't trust you to I love you like a brother and I feel like you're bulletproof only to watch him stab Roman in the back and hit him in the chair, it was emotionally taxing for him. It was too much for him. He was like, what you doing, man? You my brother. You did that to my brother, man. What you doing? Like he was very emotional and I'm just like, just to give Jay Uso all the awards now. Don't get me started on that rant again, but just give him all the awards for his acting and Roman's acting. The whole I Know Why family just needs a primetime Emmy, and I'm just tired of people just pretending like they don't deserve it because they do. And then when you watch Roman react to getting hit in the back of the chair, it all leads back to this piece of trauma that Roman lives with when it comes to being hit in the back with the chair by Seth when they broke up the Shield. When Seth wanted to strike out on his own and be the architect along with Randy and Triple H as a part of the Authority, it he broke up their family in that way. And when it comes to breaking up families with a steel chair, Roman is very experienced with that. He's very traumatized from that because when Roman and Seth had their past feud last year around this time, he was just like, bruh, like you ruined us. You ruined our family for this. I may be here and I may be the champion, but you destroyed me with that. You hurt me when you stabbed us in the back because the Shield was a family. And when you think about, and when you think about, the Shield being around each other for that long, that's a brotherhood that was built up. And Seth ruined that for power. He destroyed Roman, destroyed Dean / John Moxley for selfish gain. And the same thing happened to him again, except it wasn't for selfish gain. It was for Seth's honor as a man. You couldn't write a better story. You really can't. I know there are more layers that I could get into, but you literally couldn't write a better story than that. You literally can't. It's just like, I don't know who on the writers team decided to trickle in generational and friendship trauma, but whoever did it deserves a medal. They deserve a medal. And it's just, and the acting, they were acting. You see these facial expressions? Do you see Roman? You see Jay? You see Jimmy? That is acting, okay? Acting. Straight acting. And they've been acting like this since 2020. Since the Thunderdome era all the way up until now. Literally. Literally. And a lot of people are saying that this is becoming a story, that this isn't becoming a story, that this is essentially like continuing the story of Jay and Roman, because it gets deeper. Because when Jay left the ring, he rolled out of there. He was so emotional that he just left, right? He just walked completely out. He couldn't take it. He couldn't take it no more. And you had the rest of the bloodline kind of just staring at him like, bro, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you staying? Jay couldn't take it no more. And then on social media, he posted on his Instagram stories, run it back, with a picture of him. I know I got to pass through a couple of them. Of him and Roman fighting each other in the Thunderdome era. And since Sami has been able to get up and go home from getting beat up, he took all of the bloodline stuff he had in his house and put it in the trash. He put it in the trash. This is how deep this stuff is getting, to the point to where Jay wants to fight Roman again, and Sami is officially over it. In fact, he's so over it, he has a shirt now that doesn't even say Sami Uso no more, and it has Zayn taped over it. This is where we are at, and I am so excited for what is about to come. It just keeps getting deeper. And then when you have Roman, of course, leaving the ring with Paul and Jimmy and Solo, he actually whispered to Solo and said, look, we're at war now. And I'm just like, at war? What is about to happen here? What do you mean war? What do you mean by war? What is about to happen? Are y'all gonna... It's a war. The bloodline is imploding, and it is the most amazing thing ever. None of these people showed up on Raw, by the way. So I guess we gotta wait till Friday to figure out how As the Bloodline Turns is gonna continue. But baby, I am ready for it. And then they just left Sami and Kevin there to just die. And then to make matters worse, after they attacked Sami and beat him up after he attacked Roman, oh my God, they tore his shirt off, which is another layer, because when Sami thought he was about to get thrown away by them, they threw him an honorary Uso shirt. So now you fast forward, but then they tore off that t-shirt to give him the honorary Uso shirt, and now they done tore off the honorary Uso t-shirt and just left him bare naked in the ring now with Kevin. And then the lay that they were getting ready to give him, Roman tore it apart and buried him in it like ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Child. The evolution. The story. Oh, thank you to Clark Street Wrestling Podcast for watching. He's saying Sami is a traitor to the bloodline. He broke my tribal chief's heart. But Roman broke Sami's heart too. That's a good point. But Roman broke his heart too because he kept testing him. And if you're in a relationship, and this is a friendship or a romantic relationship where you feel like the person is constantly testing you to test their loyalty over and over again, you just feel like there's nothing that you can do that will ultimately please them, that will ultimately get them to believe that you love them and you're here for them. I am here to say that Sami was hurt by Roman with being given that extra test. And Sami snapped. He couldn't take it no more. And this is why we are here in the today of things. And there's a war, and Sami has a new shirt now. and his stuff is in the trash. And Jay wants to fight. So, hey, this is where we're at now. But, baby, I am excited about where we're at. I am so excited. So, that's the end of the Royal Rumble review from your girl Stephanie on the Hardy Wrestling Podcast Extra. Thank you to those who watched and went through this journey with me. And of course, if you want to, of course, continue to support the show, like, share, and subscribe to the show on YouTube on the Hardy Wrestling Podcast. Like the Hardy Wrestling Podcast on Facebook, and also follow me on Twitch, Stephanie_Hardy4, and follow the Hardy Wrestling Podcast on Instagram at Hardy Wrestling Podcast and on Twitter at Hardy Wrestle Pod. Continue to support the show and just be on the lookout for more content that I'm gonna share for Black History Month, and also just continuously. I'm not sure if I'm gonna have a main episode this weekend where I talk about the stuff I liked or news and gossipish yet, but just be on the lookout for that information as it follows. And just continue to support me and my growth as a wrestling host and as a wrestling fan and as a wrestling journalist per se. And also just continue to just be on the lookout for more stuff that I'm doing with Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. You can check me out over there hosting the Wow Superheroes after show every Monday, and also on the SmackDown and Rampage after show every Friday night with Drian Santana, our editor in chief. And you can also catch me this Thursday, on the NXT after show with Shay Sawyer as well. So check me out there, and also check out my articles on www.talkpod.com, and just continue to support me because your girl is out here. And also next week I will be at Comic-Con with my fan table. So if you want to talk wrestling, talk all the developments of the Royal Rumble, all the bloodline stuff, or even talk about wrestling as a whole outside of WWE, you can come to Comic-Con and do that at the HWP fan table. I'll be there. We can talk and we can have fun. So I hope all of you wound up enjoying the Royal Rumble as it stands, because we are on this road to WrestleMania in Hollywood, and I'm so excited that I actually get to go. It's my first WrestleMania since 2011. That's the one that was in Atlanta. So I'm just really pumped to go and actually be a part of all the things for it. And all the stories that are going to be told for this WrestleMania are just going to be huge, and I'm just so excited for all of it. And this Royal Rumble really kicked it off in a major way. So I hope you enjoyed my Royal Rumble review on the Hardy Wrestling Podcast with your girl Stephanie Hardy. And until next time, stay safe and just continue to celebrate Black History Month if you're of that persuasion. And until next time, bye y'all.